when we introduce ourselves, this is how people will always remember us. And that's why it's the most important aspect when networking. In this video, I'll show you how to use your own hero story to nail your introduction every time. And this works for networking in person, in other communities, and even in your own community. So, hey there, I'm Luke, and I have networked with some of the biggest players on school. You may know me as the networking wizard. And I worked as the admin of Synthesizer for Andrew Kirby. I helped Aiden LeBreche with the delivery of synthesizer scaling. I hosted the Goosify team at my place to create top performing ads. And I networked with Max Pearson, Calvin Hollywood, Ryan Duncan, Matthew Thompson, Kevin Wong, and Evelyn Weiss, and many, many more. And today we're going to specifically cover the key aspects that I think you can include in your own introduction. And I see all of these as modules that you can use. And this is based on the onboarding in my own community, the game. So in here, you can check this out. And here we have the origin story. So this is where every hero's story starts. And at the end, you're not just the hero of your own story, but you're also the director. And understanding our own origin is the first step to networking effectively. And that's why I think it's really important to think about our past, present, and future. And I'm always going to give you a bit of an example so you know what this can look like. So when you go through the classroom in the community, you'll be able to see the complete instructions and like how to write your own post around this. So in the past, I've traveled the world to find the best education system. This is something that really defined me. That's why I do this. And I always kind of try to keep it to one sentence in a way, because otherwise it'll get too bloated. And by having things as short and precise as possible, we'll be able to connect with others because they'll actually see the things that I'm writing. Because maybe you know the saying, I apologize for not having the time to write you a shorter email. So here it's the same approach. We want to keep things as precise and short as possible. And this usually adds to the clarity. The present, so right now, I'm creating my own system to make learning fun with a gamified community. So that's what we're literally doing right now. And in the future, I'm planning to create a worldwide ecosystem of communities that create a holistic and gamified education system to prepare the next generation for the future. So this is where I'm going. And by sharing these three aspects, we are able to really tell people our origin, where we're coming from, where we want to go. And from here on, we can go a little bit deeper and think about the Death Star run. So what is your mission ultimately? Every hero needs this mission to change the world for the better. And we find our allies by looking for this common enemy, by looking for people who have the same kind of mission, the same kind of drive. We find it's like, oh, it looks like we're working on the same things, and now we can combine our skills. So what Death Star are you facing? And the question that we're going to comment underneath the origin post that we created all the way in the beginning is essentially this. So this is what I'm doing. I'm a fan of threes, so I'm keeping it in threes. And I'm ultimately facing the traditional education system. We are losing so much potential by not preparing the learners for the future. And my mission is to make learning fun by turning it into a multiplayer game where we can all learn from one another. So this is ultimately the thing that drives everything that I'm doing. And the people who resonate with that will be able to connect with me through that. And I've already made like many allies along this mission. And we are ultimately facing this big enemy together. And having this thing that we are fighting against really allows us to come together as one community. Because it may sound weird, but we really need this us versus them approach because this is what creates the strongest bonds. So the next thing is our mentors. So Who are your guides? We are all standing on the shoulders of giants, and every master, every mentor, every guide has gotten us this far. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And sometimes we're not even aware of the masters of our masters. So, what I want to know from you is who has been a Yoda in your past, and what did you learn from them? Specifically on my side, I learned from Andrew Kirby, who taught me how to get paid to change the world. This is something that I did not know how to do. I know I wanted to change the world, but I didn't know how to monetize that. So this is something that I learned from him in Synthesizer. And I learned from Aiden Labrache how to over deliver and execute a 350K launch. This is something that I was not aware was even really possible before because it just seemed so outrageous. But like after actually having done something like that, it's like, oh, it's just like these different steps. And then ultimately I learned from Gus Danlere, who taught me about the importance of inside jokes within the community. And before I kind of mentioned the aspect of having this us versus them approach. And I think with this inside jokes, it's exactly that. We are able to create more of this us feeling. And these are the people that I learned, but I really want to know who is your Yoda. So you can just also drop this in the comments underneath your origin post. So we don't just have Yodas in our lives, but we also have Vaders in our lives. So how did you face your fears? We can all be our own biggest enemies when we are avoiding our fears. And only by actually facing them can we transform and feel reborn. So, what darkness did you face in your duel with Vader? Because these are the truly transformative experiences, and these are the lessons that we want to teach our own learners in the future when we are taking the spot of Yoda in the relationship. We want to prevent them to have similar experiences with Vader. So the thing that I experienced was back in 23, I launched the Hero Academy, which was a community on Kajabi, and it didn't make any profits. I didn't know how to market that or sell that, and I was trying to do that with a low ticket and building things with the hope of people will just come kind of broke me. And I didn't really think I could fail. So ultimately, I had to fail. And this was really this Vader moment where I was like, no. um, and I was kind of like so demoralized by this experience. But at the end, I did pick myself up and I was able to overcome that. And it's like, okay, how can I make sure that I help other people not make the same mistakes? So this is kind of what I'm doing right now, which leaves us better. So something I learned about the Veda experience is these are always the experiences that make us better, that transform us, and that's why we ultimately feel reborn. So after the Veda experience, we usually have also a Han experience. So here it's really about what you're good at. So we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and with the right team, we can focus on what we do best. And I want to know what are your strengths and what role did you fill when helping out Han, right? When we remember the scene, this is Lando. Leia was disguising herself, and C3PO was like doing the translations, and C3 and RTG2 was like carrying the lightsaber. Everyone within the team had a specific role, and even though Luke was not really the one who was like the best negotiator, he was the one who ended up rescuing Han, not by himself, but with a team. So by understanding what role we are filling in our team, knowing that I'm good at disguises, or maybe I can distract someone, or I can really convince someone, or I am really good at drawing attention to me. Like all of these things are valuable in terms of a team. So understanding what our strengths is really key. So when I think about what my strengths are, is I'm really good at connecting. I kind of see different patterns. I really want to understand people and their strengths so I can organize them together and continue to learn from everyone that I'm interacting. So this way I can create this ecosystem of different people that are connected and organized and sharing the lessons and learnings from everyone and spread this through this ecosystem. And this is what I'm thinking I'm good at. And what kind of role I am playing in different teams, where I'm like, hey, I'm just the connector and helping other people realize their superpowers in that way. And when we understand what we're good at, then we also need to understand what our values are, or more importantly, what values we are not willing to give up. Because our values guide our decisions and they're like a shortcut for our brains. And then we also have rules that determine how we feel about these different experiences. So when you were to face the Emperor, what values are you going to keep? Here, Luke was not willing to give up his friends just for more power. He was not willing to betray his father for the dark side. And these were things that were sacred to him. And he didn't give them up despite the temptation. And there will always come temptations, especially when running a business. So these are the values that I'm not willing to give up. Balance is something that I always find important because you can always push harder and you can always do more. But if you lose balance in the process, then like I think I'm gonna end up crashing and it'll take much longer to gain that momentum back. So I'd rather not go at like 100% and eventually burn out. I'd prefer a more balanced approach. But that's my value. Something that I also really value is progress. I always want to see that I'm making progress towards my goal, that I'm seeing how I'm leveling up, that I'm seeing these experience points that I'm collecting, and that I'm getting better at the things that I'm doing. And that's why I love tracking this kind of progress, not just in myself, but also in my clients. And the third and final part is play. Because if I'm not enjoying the journey, if I don't have fun while doing that, then what's the point? Why am I even doing this? I could just not do it. And these are things that I'm not willing to give up. And I have sacrificed previous opportunities because they were not balanced or they were not playful. And I realized that this wasn't right for me. And this way, I was able to just make a quick decision without worrying, is this the right decision? Because if it's not aligned with our values, then it's simply not the right decision. And I'm not going to give in to the emperor's temptation. And then at the end, it really is just about what gets you into flow. What are the things that you can celebrate? And the best way to play the game is by getting in this flow state where we are between being overwhelmed and bored. So the exact opposite what the traditional education system is doing, because in this flow state, we feel and perform our best. So I want to know what gets you in this flow state when you're celebrating the fall of the empire, when you're together with your friends and you have achieved the outcome. Like, what is something that just makes time disappear, where you don't think about yourself, you don't think about all the things that you need to do, and you're just in that moment enjoying. And that's what I always strive for and optimize for. So the things that that ultimately get me into flow is just playing games with others. Because as long as we're having this playful manner, I feel like I'm learning something. I feel like I'm contributing. It feels like I'm making progress towards my goals. What I want to know from you is comment underneath the thing that puts you in the state of flow, where you feel like you're celebrating, where time disappears. And with that, we have all these different aspects handled that we can use to introduce ourselves, from how we celebrate, our values that we're not willing to give up, the things that we're good at, the things that we're kind of afraid of, but we're still doing, the mentors we met along the way, as well as the mission that we are always connecting with. and our origin story. So this is ultimately the best way to introduce ourselves to others. And I see all of these as Lego blocks that we can use. So depending on who we're talking to, what kind of community we are joining, we can use these in different elements. And because it's connected to one hero story, they will always be relevant. And these are the kind of things that people will always pay attention to. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful time and I'll see you in the community.